Hey there, Fletcher from All Things Overlanding here, and today I'm going to be talking about this new version of the Hcalory Toolbox style diesel heater. They've made a lot of changes, made this thing more efficient, and now runs up to 50 hours, and it has a ton of really cool new features, including a new remote, and of course it works with an app. So stay tuned to learn more about the new version of the Hcalory Toolbox diesel heater.
Understand where it came from, but you got it, my got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, so as I mentioned in the intro, today I'm talking about this new version of the Hcalory Toolbox style diesel heater. These things are really cool for a number of reasons. So let me just kind of start by breaking down why and when I think this type of setup makes sense for you if you're looking for a portable diesel heater to take with you on camping or overlanding trips. So if you're not planning to build this in, if you're planning to only take this when you go on a trip, which is a lot of us, this form factor is really nice because of course you get this heavy duty big handle on the top. The fuel tank now is integrated where it used to be attached to the back, which made it really lopsided and it was hard to get it to stand up. So now this thing is super sturdy, super stable. If you're throwing this in the back of a truck bed or an SUV or something, this thing is great. There is one downside, and that's the fuel cap, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But as far as overall form factor goes, having everything built in and integrated into this unit is really, really nice. Also, the fact that you can store the pieces that you need inside of it also makes it really nice for portability. So I'm going to dive into the internals of the heater here in just a second because I want to talk to you a little bit about the things that they've changed and kind of show you what it looks like inside of there. But before we do that, let's just start with what comes in the box, right? So of course you get your pretty standard stuff. You get your output hose. So this is what's going to attach to your output tube from the device to go into your tent. Now with these, this is one of the things that I don't like. They come with these sort of metallic extendable ones, but they're really, really tough to extend, and they only get a couple feet long. So I mean, this thing, as you can see right now, is about a foot long. You could maybe double or triple this thing in size, but it takes a lot of effort. It's just not great. Unless you're setting your diesel heater literally right up at your tent and running it in, this just doesn't work. So I'm going to put a link in the description below to the air ducts that I normally get. Now this is a 3.5-inch output, so just so you know, but I'm going to put a link in the description below to a 10 and a 16-foot 3.5-inch dryer vent hose. Those are the type that I usually use because they fold down super small, but they can get way longer, and you can put this thing on a tire table or set it on the ground under the tailgate of your truck or wherever you want and have plenty of hose to run it up and into your rooftop tent or a ground tent or whatever you're using it for. But you do get it, so that's nice that they include it. Then of course you get your intake hose, and you get this, what they call a filter, but it's just a piece of plastic basically to keep the big junk out of there. And you get all the hose clamps and hardware to attach this, and then this is going to go on the other side, and I'll show you where this goes here in a second. You do get this extension too, which I believe is to extend the harness for the controller that's on the side of the box. So if you wanted to take that somewhere else, or if you were hard mounting this and you wanted your controller to be like closer to the back of the bed and maybe this is in the front, then you could do that and use it to relocate your controller. And you also get an end cap for your diesel heater tube. So, you know, when you run this into your tent, you can basically put this on the end so that it just gives you a little bit of control and makes it so it's not just a big gaping open hole at the end, which is nice. Then you get these little brackets, which actually attach to the sides of the diesel heater to hold up both your exhaust and your intake hose. I typically don't use those because these exhaust tubes are pretty rigid and you can just kind of aim them wherever you want. And I feel like every time it's a slightly different setup. If I'm putting it on the ground, I may need my tube to go one direction. If I'm putting it on a tire table, I may need it to go another. So I typically don't mount it using those brackets, but you do get them if you'd like to have them sort of mounted and ready to go all the time and just leave them on. You can do that. Now, in addition to the exhaust tube, you get a standard sort of muffler. Again, I'm going to run this thing here in a second. I'm going to show you what this sounds like, how loud this is, but they say that they've cut way back on noise and also fuel consumption. So again, I'm going to run you through those stats here in a second once we get through what's in the box, and then I'm going to show it in action. Now, of course, you get your sort of standard 12-volt power supply that you can hook up directly to, say, a secondary house battery, which is how I always power these things. One reason for that, if you're new to diesel heaters, is that they have a pretty good draw when you first fire them up, usually like 130 to 160 watts, and that can take a lot of power banks down. So basically when you start it, your power bank will go, no, I'm not running that much stuff, and your power bank will shut off and you won't be able to start your diesel heater. But if you just hook this up to a typical LiFePO4 battery or AGM battery, there are no restrictions like that, and you can just basically run it off of your battery until your battery runs out of juice. So that is how that is wired. Another note is that these things, these plugs that all these diesel heaters work with, are standardized, and they're essentially the same as almost every 12-volt fridge that you've seen or that you may have. So like I have my ice co up here, and in the winter, since I'm not using the fridge because it's cold, I will often just unplug my fridge and then use my power cord for my fridge to run my diesel heater. So just a tip, if you didn't know that, this is a way to do that so that you don't have to duplicate effort. If you've already got a plug in somewhere in your vehicle for your fridge, you can use that for your diesel heater. Now, of course, here are all of the pieces of hardware that come with it. Those are those brackets that I showed you for intake and exhaust. And then this is just an AC plug. So if you wanted to run this in a garage or an external shed or something like that, or if you had a power bank that you only had an AC option on, then you could run this off of AC or DC. Okay, so now I'm going to open this thing up. I'm going to show you the inside of this. I'm going to talk about some differences between this one and the old version. So again, with the old version, there was basically 4 holes on the back here. These 4 holes here, and that is how you would attach your fuel tank. Now, the old fuel tank was 5 liters. The new fuel tank is now integrated into the box, and it's 6 liters. So you get a 20% increase in fuel capacity, and you don't have to worry about bolting a thing to the back here, having it be offset, off weight, and then whenever you set it down, you have to worry about it falling over. Now, fuel tank is right there on the top. So you get a 20% increase in fuel. Also, the diesel heater itself is technically an 8 kilowatt, but the cool thing about these new heaters is they basically allow you to adjust how many kilowatts you're using from the diesel heater. So on some of my other ones I've had, the typical range is about 1.4 to 5, because most of them are 5. This is an 8, so you have a little bit more range on it. But again, you could use up to 8 kilowatts if you're in really, really cold temps. Most of the time, though, I run these things on the very base bottom level. It does not take much for this dry heat to heat up a rooftop tent or a ground tent. So they say that with this 6-liter tank, the tank increase, and then the efficiency increase, this thing is actually like 38% more efficient than the old one. And it will run almost twice as long as the old diesel heater would on this amount of fuel. So granted, it's a little bit more fuel, but versus the old version, this will run almost 50 hours on 1 tank of fuel. So that's pretty cool. And from a power consumption standpoint, it takes about 0.03 to 0.1 gallons of diesel per hour. So it's very, very fuel efficient. Once you get it started up and you get it running and it's just sort of maintaining, it's very, very efficient. And again, you can get up to 50 hours. So that's pretty cool that they are focused on efficiency. They're working on that. But so this is the heater in here. This is your fuel tank up top. Down here are your exhaust tubes. And then this metal end is where your exhaust is going to attach. So again, this is going to be this tube, right? With the muffler. We're going to attach that down here. Now again, they give you all the hardware, so you could hardwire this. You could put that bracket down here and put this thing up through that bracket and make it go out. I typically just keep this stuff all separate, and I will put it, sort of down in here, store it in here. You gotta be careful a little bit of these cords. You don't want to mess up your cords, but you can usually find ways to put these in here. Or for some of them, like some of my other diesel heaters, you can actually just get like a duffel bag and keep your stuff in there. So I've kind of started to do that where all my diesel heater stuff is in my drawer system, and then I just have to grab this when I want to go. But because we're going to test this in a second, I'm going to put the exhaust on this side. Again, that's the metal side. Then on the other side, you're going to notice this plastic inlet, and that is where your air intake would go. Now again, you could put a bracket right up here, and you could put this on, and then you could run this up to here and sort of attach it if you prefer. I usually just let it lay on the ground. So my exhaust is way up here, my intake is way over here. They're separated. I don't have to worry about cross-contamination or the carbon monoxide getting in there. Now, I'm going to talk about this remote here in a second because this is one of my favorite new things about this diesel heater. But before we get there, I mentioned the cap. This is my only sort of detraction from this unit, is most of these come with this style of cap. I'm going to take this off and show you. It is just a plain standard non-automotive plastic cap, right? And it has this venting in the middle of it. Now theirs does appear to have sort of a cover on it. So I'm actually kind of curious about this. This may contain the fuel without leaking, but I've almost never been able to get these caps to stay on without leaking. So again, imagine you fill this thing up with diesel, you throw it in the bed of your truck, you off-road, right? It's a bumpy trail. And then whenever I get to camp, my whole diesel heater is covered in diesel, right? So my solution for that has been, historically, the last couple of years, I will put RTV or some sort of silicone sealant over this hole for the vent. That seals it up 100% and makes it so that it doesn't leak. That solves my leaking problem. But then when you go to run it, it's tough for the diesel heater to breathe and it will sort of throttle down and or cut off. So then the solution for that is when I go to run this thing at night, I take the cap off and I just sort of set it to the side like that so that it's vented. and so that it's ready to go. And then when I'm ready the next morning to pack up, I just put the cap back on, screw it down, and again, that RTV, that silicone sealant, keeps the fuel from spilling out. Now again, I'm not 100% sure with this because I've not taken this one on a trip yet. I'm getting ready to go on a trip. So I'll test it and see if that leaks, and I'll post up in the comments below. Or if one of you have used it, post up in the comments below and let me know if you've had any leaking issues with this, because they may have solved it. This looks better. Most of these are just plain plastic with nothing on the inside to prevent fuel from coming up, and it just sloshes everywhere. So just something to be aware of. Test it out. Maybe do it before you put it inside of an SUV for sure, because you don't want to spill diesel everywhere. And just make sure that it's not going to leak. And if not, then you're good. And if so, fill it up with silicone. Good to go. So now let's get into this remote a little bit. This is one of the coolest new things that they've done. This thing is, I know people say it a lot, a game changer. This thing really is. So this remote is awesome for a number of reasons. One, it's way more functional than the old ones, right? The old ones were like on, off, plus, minus. That was it. You got an on, off, and a plus and a minus. You had no idea whether it had power. You didn't even have a battery indicator. You had to hit it and see if a light came on, and that was all that you had to determine if you even had battery. Or, you know, you could turn it on and test it and say, oh yeah, it's on, and then go camping, and then you get there and the battery would be dead. This thing recharges off of a USB-C, so that's pretty awesome. You can use this over and over again and just recharge it. You don't have to worry about putting those weird little circular, like coin style batteries in them. It also has a temp sensor built into it there on the top. So this thing will act as a thermostat. So you can take this up into your tent with you while the heater is down on the ground, and you can use this as a thermostat, and the heater will automatically turn itself on and off to run and keep your tent at that temp. Now, one thing to note, and again, I haven't tested this thing yet, I'm taking it next weekend, but historically, I have always heard that when you run it off thermostat, what it does is that it actually kicks down the heater and turns it all the way off. So what that means is, imagine you're in a tent, right? A cloth fabric tent, and it's, let's say it's 20 degrees, and you're running this heater, and then it gets up to 70 or whatever you have your thermostat set at, your temperature set at. You hit 70, this thing goes, hey, we're at 70, tells the heater to shut off, the heater shuts off. You're in a tent, right? So within minutes, it's cooled way back down below 70, and it goes, oh no, we're below 70, kick back on and run and run and run. Well, then you've got a whole nother startup process, so you're taking that 130 to 160 watts to restart the heater. You have a lot of extra wear and tear on the heater, that sort of thing. I have kind of heard from a couple people that I've seen that have done videos on this that this is not as sensitive, and it may kick it down and not turn it off. So again, I need to test that part of it, but just something to be aware of. You definitely want to test that. And then what I typically do is I just turn it all the way down. If I'm even too hot, I will vent my windows more, and I will just turn it all the way down to the lowest setting. And then as I get cold, I'll zip my windows up a little bit, you know, and you just kind of dial it in. And then eventually throughout the night, then you will get there where you've got good, nice heat, but you've got a little bit of cool air coming in and mixing, and you've just got a good constant temperature. Again, that's how I typically do it. I don't mess with the thermostat function of these too much, but I'm curious to see how this one does because I heard that it's better. There's also a timer setting, which is really cool. So if you just wanted to say, hey, run for 3 hours, and then I'm going to be in my sleeping bag and I'll be all nice and warm, and then turn off, you can do that. And then again, when you wake up in the morning, you could grab this remote, kick it back on from the warmth of your sleeping bag, get the tent heated back out without running it all night, so that you're saving fuel and stuff and just being more conscientious of your usage of it. Wear and tear is saved, all that good stuff, and turn it back on the next morning. Same with the app. And I'm going to pull up the app here in a second, and I'm going to show it to you as we're running the heater. But let's get it plugged in here and let's start it up. And then I'll show you the app and kind of show it in action. All right, so I threw some diesel in it, and now we're going to test fire it up. Then I'm going to show you a little bit about this remote and kind of how that works. And then I'm going to show you the app, and then we're going to wrap up this video. So I've got this thing hooked up just straight to my lead time 12-volt, 320 amp hour battery. It's about 50% charged. I need to hook it up to a tender and get it charging, but should be plenty for this test. Then you're just going to plug it in. You're going to notice that this screen is going to come on. So you could totally operate this thing off of this screen that's attached with it. So if you ever lose this or something, or you forget it at home, it doesn't mean you can't use your diesel heater. You can control everything from this panel. Also, don't forget about the app. I make sure to download it beforehand and sync it up with my device before I leave, so that again, you're probably not going to forget your cell phone. That's something you have on you all the time. So again, if you forgot this or needed something else, you could use your cell phone to control it. I like that a lot for in the morning when I'm waking up and I want to kind of get down. I'll go ahead and shut it off because it does take probably 2 to 5 minutes for the diesel heater to cool down. So you just want to shut it down. So basically in the morning when I get up, I get dressed, I'm nice and warm, I'm ready to get down and start packing up my stuff. I'll go ahead and hit it from the app or from the controller from my tent to start it cooling down and doing its cool down cycle, so that when I'm down and I get all my bedding out and I start to pack up my tent, the diesel heater is all cooled down and ready to go into the back of the truck or your SUV or whatever you're putting it into. Now that we've got this hooked up, you can see we had a screen there. I'm going to hit the power button here on it. I'm also going to turn on the remote at the same time. So on the side of the remote here, there's this little red thing. You push it up to turn it on, and you're going to see the display come on there. Now, on the display here, it's going to show you if there's a CO warning. So if you had carbon monoxide, this thing is also a carbon monoxide sensor. So having this up in the tent is a nice safety feature. Now, you've also got like altitude mode. You've got all these different modes. You've got timer mode, like I mentioned, so you could run this thing for a certain number of hours and then have it shut off, and you can control all that from the device. The other really nice thing about this display, as you can see over here, is it will show you your battery life on your remote. So again, versus just having to hope that your battery is good, this will actually show you what you're at so you know when you need to recharge it. Now, I hit the power button on this remote here, and you can hear it starting to spin up. So I'll shut up for a second, let you listen to it. These things have gotten amazingly quiet, though, over the years. This thing's used to be super, super loud. So now listen to this thing start up here and you'll hear how loud it is. Okay, so I use the app to just turn it on. I've got it set to 7. I mean, you can always adjust this up and down, whatever you want to do. Again, I mostly keep mine pretty low. It saves fuel and it's generally really, really warm, even at the lowest setting. So this is startup now, and I'll be quiet and let you hear the ticking of the fuel pump. But I mean, these things have been way louder in the past, I'm telling you that. And again, on a remote here, you know, you can see sort of the same things reflected that are shown on the main display as well as on the app. Alrighty though, so that is the all-new Hcalory Toolbox version 2, I think, or 2 Plus, maybe they call it, with the really nice new remote. Again, I'll put a link in the description below. I think I paid like $180 for my very first version of this. So I bought actually the first Toolbox version, had the external fuel tank, was a less efficient heater, but it was a great heater. I mean, I used it for years. That was the one that I was talking about. I left outside all the time for like a whole winter and didn't have any problems with it. So when I saw this one, I was like, man, that makes sense as an upgrade. So, but all my old ones are still running too. So these things will last for quite a while, but for the money, the way I kind of look at it is if I get 3 to 5 seasons out of it, I feel like that's a pretty good investment. Again, versus like freezing to death in a sleeping bag or something like that, right? So again, if you're looking for a diesel heater that has a really nice form factor, that has a really awesome remote with some built-in functionality like a timer, like a thermostat temp sensor, built-in carbon monoxide monitoring, which is really, really cool, and an app, this thing is a great deal. And so again, wanted to show you all the features, wanted to show you everything that came with it, wanted to fire it up for you and just kind of show you that. Again, I plan to take this on a trip in a week or so I will report back if there are any issues or questions or any weird things that pop up. I may do a follow-up on it, but from my experience with these Hcalory heaters, they are pretty bulletproof, and you just kind of turn them on and let them run all night, and you're good to go. So again, I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, click that like button. Keep in mind that there will be links to all the stuff I mentioned in the description below to make it super easy for you to find this heater, that extended hose that I talked about. Also in the description below will be links to all my social channels. So wherever you want to come hang out, I've got links to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all over the place. Wherever you want to come, I've got podcasts too. I'm all over. I'd love to have you following along wherever you'd like. There's also a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding camping themed patches and stickers, things like don't burn your wiener and it's a hot dog, or I hate people so I camp. There's also all things overlanding patches and stickers. So if you're into any of that stuff, check out those links. Then there's a join button below this video, which is just sort of a passive way to support the channel. It gets you early access to the videos and all the podcasts that I do, because those go up on YouTube as well. And it's just a way to support the channel. And then, of course, there is also a link to my group called Newbie Overlanders. It's a Facebook group with over 27,000 people at the time I'm recording this. It's an awesome group of new folks and experienced folks. But the biggest difference is we don't allow bullying. So if people are going to come in and be jerks, they're going to get kicked out. So if you want to actually ask questions, or you want to actually help new people get into the hobby of overlanding, that could be a good group for you, and we'd love to have you. But again, thanks so much for watching. Check out the Hcalory version 2 Toolbox, and we'll see you next time.